My gold-digger fiancé planned to dump me after the wedding, take half my money, let her think. Liam, a 30-year-old software developer, had always prided himself on his logical mindset, his ability to see patterns, and his skill in solving complex problems. He had built a successful career and was financially comfortable, something he had worked tirelessly to achieve. When he met Anna, a 28-year-old woman with an effortless charm and beauty, he believed he had found someone who truly understood him. She was warm, supportive, and had an uncanny ability to make him feel like he was the most important person in the world. Their 3-year relationship had felt like a dream, and when he proposed, he was certain he had found the one. However, as the engagement unfolded, cracks began to appear in the perfect image he had painted of Anna. One of the first warning signs was her mother, Diane. From the moment Liam had met her, she had an intense curiosity about his career and financial status. While polite at first, her questions became increasingly invasive. How much did he earn? Did he have savings? Did he own any property? At first, he brushed it off as typical parental concern, but over time, it became clear that Diane's interest in him wasn't about his character or how he treated her daughter. It was about his bank balance. Anna had always assured him that her mother was just old-fashioned and wanted to make sure her daughter was secure, but Liam couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeper at play. The real shift happened after the engagement. Almost overnight, Anna's demeanor changed. The affectionate, easygoing woman he had fallen in love with seemed to morph into someone else, someone who was suddenly fixated on extravagant wedding plans and financial entanglements. She began pushing for a grand wedding, one that went far beyond what Liam had initially imagined. He had envisioned something elegant but intimate, a celebration that reflected their love rather than an ostentatious display of wealth. But Anna had other ideas. She wanted the most expensive venue, the finest catering, designer dresses, and every luxury imaginable. When he hesitated, expressing concerns about the sheer cost of it all, she dismissed his worries with an unsettling ease. "Why are you being so cheap about this?" she asked one night, her voice carrying an edge he hadn't heard before. "This is the most important day of our lives. Don't you want it to be perfect?" Liam had always been willing to spend on experiences, but this wasn't about creating memories. It was about excess. Every conversation about the wedding turned into an argument. When he suggested setting a reasonable budget, Anna accused him of not caring enough about her happiness. But the worst part wasn't even the wedding planning, it was the sudden and relentless pressure she began placing on him to merge their finances. At first, it was subtle. She would joke about how they should have a joint account to make things easier. But soon, it became more than a joke. She started bringing it up constantly, asking him when they would combine their money, talking about how real couples don't keep things separate. It wasn't just Anna. Diane began making pointed comments as well. "Marriage is about trust, Liam," she told him one evening when they were visiting for dinner. "If you truly trust each other, there's no need to keep money separate. It's about building a future together." The way she said it made Liam feel like he was being tested, like there was an unspoken challenge in her word. The more he resisted, the more relentless Anna became. One evening, after yet another argument about merging their finances, she burst into tears. "Do you not trust me?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "Because it really feels like you don't. It feels like you're planning for us to fail." Liam was taken aback. It wasn't about trust, it was about caution. He had worked hard for his financial security, and something about the way she was pushing this made him uneasy. He had always believed in fairness, in making sure both partners were equal contributors, but Anna was treating their financial discussions like a battlefield. She spoke as if she was entitled to everything he had earned, as if his reluctance to blindly sign over access to his accounts was a betrayal. Then there was the way she reacted when he suggested a prenup. "You don't love me," she spat when he brought it up one evening. "You're already preparing for us to get divorced." He tried to explain that a prenup was just a precaution, a way to protect them both, but she refused to hear it. She twisted it into something malicious, something that suggested he had one foot out the door before they had even walked down the aisle. The more Liam thought about it, the more uneasy he became. The woman he had fallen in love with was slipping away, replaced by someone he barely recognized. He started questioning everything. Was this who she had been all along? Had he been blind to the warning signs? Or was this change something new, something brought on by the looming reality of marriage? The tension grew unbearable. He felt trapped, suffocated by the constant demands and the emotional manipulation. Every time he tried to reason with her, she flipped the conversation, making him feel like he was the one in the wrong. She accused him of being cold, unromantic, unwilling to truly commit. It wasn't just the wedding plans or the money, it was the feeling that he was being cornered, pushed into a version of a marriage that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with control. One night, after another exhausting argument, Liam lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Anna had stormed out of the room after accusing him of ruining everything. He felt hollow, drained. The doubts that had been creeping in were now impossible to ignore. He had thought he was building a future with the woman he loved, but now, he wasn't so sure. All he knew was that something was very, very wrong. Liam sat at his desk, rubbing his temples as he tried to focus on his work. The past few weeks had been exhausting. Every conversation with Anna seemed to revolve around their finances, the wedding, or how he needed to trust her more. The pressure was relentless. He wasn't opposed to combining finances eventually, but the way she pushed for it, the urgency in her voice, the constant accusations that he was holding back, it all left him with a deep sense of unease. Then, that message popped up. It was just a brief glimpse, a single notification flashing across Anna's phone screen as she left it on the kitchen counter. Did he agree to merge the accounts yet? Tick-tock, girl. Liam's stomach tightened. His mind raced. Why would Anna's friends send a message like that? It sounded calculated, cold. He tried to push the thought away, but it gnawed at him. He couldn't ignore the growing suspicion that had been creeping in since their engagement. He needed answers. Anna had always been careless with her laptop, often leaving it open on the kitchen table. That night, after she fell asleep, he hesitated for a long moment before finally opening it. His hands trembled as he navigated to her emails, his heart pounding against his ribs. At first, he saw nothing alarming, just casual conversations, wedding plans, shopping confirmations. But then, a thread caught his eye. It was from her mother, Diane. Liam clicked, and the world as he knew it shattered. Stay sweet for a few weeks, then start fights and file for divorce by month 1. You'll get half. His breath caught in his throat. His eyes darted over the rest of the conversation, disbelief washing over him like ice. The key is making him feel guilty for resisting. Keep pushing for the joint account. If he hesitates, cry. Act hurt. If he still refuses, tell him you feel unsafe, and make him question himself. That's what worked with my second husband. Liam's hands clenched into fists. His vision blurred for a second as a sickening realization dawned on him. This wasn't just manipulation. This was a well-practiced strategy. His entire relationship was a lie. His heart pounded as he scrolled further, his fingers ice-cold against the keyboard. More emails. More instructions. Once the wedding is done, don't be too perfect. Pick fights. Make it unbearable. He needs to feel like divorce is his idea. If he initiates, even better, then you can play the victim and get sympathy, too. Liam felt like he was drowning. His pulse roared in his ears, his mouth went dry, and his stomach twisted into knots. But it wasn't just Diane's words that crushed him, it was Anna's responses. Don't worry, Mom. He's an idiot. He still thinks I love him. He'll give in soon. I'll start small fights next week like we planned. By the honeymoon, he'll be begging me to leave. Liam gripped the edge of the table, his whole body trembling. He forced himself to keep reading, even as the bile rose in his throat. A group chat with Anna's closest friends confirmed his worst nightmare. Ugh, I can't believe I have to deal with him for a few more months. Think of the payday, babe. You'll never have to work again. Make sure you get him to pay for a luxury honeymoon. At least have some fun before dumping him. Did he agree to merge accounts yet? Tick-tock, girl. Liam squeezed his eyes shut. His chest felt like it was caving in. This was never real. The woman he had spent 3 years loving, the woman he had thought was his future, saw him as nothing but a paycheck. A temporary husband. A means to an end. And it wasn't just her. Her mother had done this before. Twice. Anna wasn't just following a plan, she was following a family tradition. Liam felt sick. Every memory, every laugh, every embrace, it had all been manufactured. A performance. He thought of every time she had pouted when he hesitated to merge finances. Every time she had cried about him not trusting her. Every time she had accused him of being unromantic when he suggested a prenup. It had all been scripted. His life had been turned into a con job. Liam's hands shook as he closed the laptop. He sat there, staring at the blank wall in front of him, feeling like he had been punched in the gut. The humiliation was unbearable. He had been so blind. The worst part? He had almost given in. If he hadn't seen that text message, if he had let his guilt and love cloud his judgment, he might have merged finances. Might have walked into a trap that had been set for him before he even proposed. Anna shifted in her sleep behind him, unaware that her secret had just been exposed. Liam turned and looked at her, lying so peacefully, as if she weren't plotting his destruction. Something inside him snapped. This wasn't just about money. This was about betrayal. About being used like an object. Anna and Diane had been so sure he would fall for their act. So confident he wouldn't question anything. They had underestimated him. Liam wasn't going to be their next victim. He was going to end this. Liam barely slept that night. His mind was a whirlwind of anger, humiliation, and icy determination. The messages from Anna and her mother played on repeat in his head. Tick-tock, girl. Pick fights and file by month 1. If he hesitates, cry. He had almost fallen for it. Almost walked straight into their trap. But now, he wasn't just going to protect himself. He was going to make sure Anna paid for what she had planned. The next morning, he took a deep breath, put on his calmest face, and acted as if nothing had changed. "Morning, babe," Anna said sweetly, kissing his cheek as he made coffee. It was almost laughable. Just last night, she had been texting her friends about how much she hated dealing with him. Liam forced a smile. "Morning, love." He played his part perfectly. A few days later, he made an excuse to work late and met with a top-tier lawyer. It was time to turn the game against her. "I need a prenup," Liam said, his voice cold. "A bulletproof one." His lawyer, an older man with sharp eyes, studied him for a moment before nodding. "Tell me everything," he said. Liam did. The lawyer's expression darkened as he listened. "You're lucky you caught this in time," he said. "We'll make sure she walks away with nothing." Liam wasn't just looking to protect his asset. He wanted revenge. So they crafted the perfect trap. Clause 1. If Anna filed for divorce within a year, she got nothing. Not a cent. Clause 2. If it could be proven that she had intent to commit fraud or was marrying him under false pretenses, she would actually owe him money. Clause 3. The prenup contained a disguised clause, one that Anna would mistake for a guaranteed settlement in case of divorce. In reality, it was a trap. It locked her into liquidating her own assets first before she could claim anything from Liam. She would have to spend her own money before she even had the right to argue for a penny from him. It was perfect, but now came the hardest part, convincing Anna to sign. He had to make her think she had won. That night, Liam sat down at the dinner table, playing the role of a conflicted but devoted fiancé. "Anna," he said with a deep sigh, rubbing his temples like a man trying to make peace with an uncomfortable truth. "I've been thinking about everything you've said about finances, and you're right." Anna froze. He could almost hear the gears turning in her head. This was what she wanted. "You mean about the joint accounts?" she asked cautiously. Liam nodded, forcing himself to look guilty. "Yeah. I realized I've been overthinking it. I don't want to start our marriage with any doubts between us." He sighed again, like a man reluctantly admitting his fault. "And I know how important security is to you, so I spoke to a lawyer about adding a settlement clause to the prenup." Anna's eyes lit up. "A settlement clause?" Liam nodded. "Yeah. Just something to make sure you'd be taken care of in case something ever happened." Anna's excitement was almost impossible to hide. She thought she had won. This was exactly what her mother had trained her to do: push him until he felt guilty, then get written guarantees before filing for divorce. She probably couldn't wait to tell Diane. Liam watched as she pretended to be hesitant. "I mean, I never really wanted a prenup at all, babe," she said, putting on a pout. "It makes me feel like you don't trust me." Liam felt bile rise in his throat, but he kept his expression soft. "I do trust you, Anna. That's why I want this. So you know I'm serious about taking care of you." She let out a dramatic sigh and bit her lip, like she was reluctantly agreeing to something she had already planned. "Okay," she finally said. "If it makes you feel better, I'll sign it." Liam wanted to laugh. She had no idea. The next day, the prenup was signed. Anna didn't even read it properly. She didn't question the legal jargon. She was so fixated on the fake settlement clause that she didn't notice the landmines hidden beneath it. She had signed her own downfall. Liam acted like a man relieved. He held her, kissed her forehead, whispered, "Thank you for understanding, love." "And Anna?" She smiled. She thought she had just guaranteed herself a massive payout. She thought she had won. But in reality, she had just doomed herself. Anna acted exactly as Liam expected. With the prenup signed and her win secured, she wasted no time in bleeding him dry. She ramped up her spending, maxing out credit cards, booking spa days, designer shopping trips, and expensive dinners with her friends, all under the assumption that soon she'd be walking away with half of everything he owned. Liam watched as she texted her friends, barely even trying to hide her disdain for him. "I don't know how I keep a straight face. He's actually grateful I signed the prenup. The idiot thinks it protects him. I just have to fake it for a little longer. I'm going to make his life hell soon. Can't wait to be free and rich. Every message was another dagger in his back. The worst part? She wasn't even pretending to love him anymore. She stopped putting effort into their conversations, barely listening when he spoke. She rolled her eyes when he tried to plan dates or talk about their future. She acted like a woman who had already checked out. Liam played his part perfectly. He acted like a devoted husband, blind and oblivious. He let her walk all over him, knowing that every insult, every moment of disrespect, would only make her more confident in her plan. Then, just weeks after the wedding, she made her first move. The games begin. It started small. She picked fights over petty things. Why he left his shoes by the door, why he didn't text her fast enough, why he didn't compliment her new dress the second she walked in. At first, he played confused and apologetic, letting her wear herself out. Then, she escalated. Maybe we should take a break, she said one evening, crossing her arms as she stared at him across the dinner table. Liam looked up from his plate, forcing his expression into something wounded and unsure. A break, he repeated softly. I don't know if this is working, she sighed, rubbing her forehead. I feel like we're not connecting. Liam clenched his fists under the table but kept his voice calm. Anna, we just got married. Isn't this something we should work through? She sighed dramatically, looking annoyed. I just feel like maybe we rushed into this. He let silence stretch between them, making her squirm. She expected resistance, maybe even begging. Instead, he just nodded slowly. Maybe you're right, he said, forcing his voice to sound hesitant. If you think we need a break, maybe we should take some space. For the first time, she looked thrown off. She hadn't expected him to agree so easily. But she recovered quickly. Yeah, I think that would be best. Liam watched as she hid her smirk behind a sip of wine. She thought she was setting the stage for the next step. She had no idea she was playing into his hands. The divorce bomb. A week later, she finally said the words. I think we should get a divorce. Liam felt a sickening mix of rage and satisfaction. This was it. The moment she thought she had won. He forced his face into devastation, dropping his gaze as if he was struggling to process it. A divorce. His voice was barely above a whisper. Anna, are you sure? She nodded, biting her lip, playing the sad, conflicted wife. I just don't think we're happy, Liam. I don't want to hurt you, but I think it's for the best. She was so good at this, so convinced she had played him. Liam let out a shaky sigh, rubbing his hands over his face like a man trying to hold himself together. I don't know what to say, he said, his voice thick with fake emotion. I didn't think we'd get here so soon. Anna reached across the table and took his hand gently, playing the role of the compassionate, regretful wife. I still care about you, she said, lying through her teeth. I just don't think we should force something that isn't working. Liam nodded slowly, swallowing hard, as if he was holding back tears. Okay, he said softly. If that's how you feel, I won't fight you. Anna squeezed his hand. She thought she had broken him. She had no idea she was about to walk straight into her own destruction. Maybe we should get lawyers involved, she suggested, trying to mask her excitement. Liam nodded weakly. Yeah, he murmured. I guess we should. Anna grinned. She thought the money was already hers. She had no idea that the moment she stepped into that lawyer's office, her entire world was going to crumble. Anna walked into the lawyer's office radiating confidence. She had dressed for the occasion, elegant but effortless, the picture of a woman who had made the difficult decision to walk away from a marriage that just wasn't working. She barely looked at Liam as she took her seat across the polished table, flipping her hair over her shoulder. To her, this was a formality, just another step toward cashing out. Liam sat quietly, his face a mask of devastation, his hands clasped together as if he was still processing the pain of losing her. He had perfected the act, right down to the hollow expression in his eyes. Anna's lawyer, a sharp-looking woman with an air of impatience, was the first to speak. My client is prepared to settle amicably, she said, sliding a folder across the table. She is willing to forego additional compensation in exchange for the immediate transfer of assets outlined in the prenuptial agreement. Liam's lawyer, a calm and composed man, didn't even blink as he took the folder. He skimmed through the pages, then let out a small, almost amused breath before setting it aside. There's just one problem, he said smoothly, looking directly at Anna. Her smile faltered. Liam's lawyer pulled out another folder, thicker and far more dangerous. He laid it flat on the table and slid it toward Anna's side. This, he continued, is the actual prenuptial agreement you signed. Anna's brows furrowed, her lips pressing together. I know what I signed. Liam finally spoke, his voice soft, hesitant, broken. Anna, did you actually read it? Something shifted in her expression. The lawyer flipped the first page and tapped a section with a neatly manicured finger. Clause 1. If the marriage ends in divorce within the first year, the filing party receives nothing. A long, suffocating silence settled over the room. Anna stared at the words, uncomprehending at first. Then, she froze. Her entire body went rigid as the reality of it sank in. You're saying that? Liam's lawyer didn't let her finish. He flipped the next page. Clause 2. If the divorce is filed under fraudulent circumstances, the filing party is liable for damages, including but not limited to legal fees incurred by the opposing party. A cold wave of panic crashed over Anna's face. She opened her mouth to protest, but Liam's lawyer was already sliding another document across the table, a list of her expenses, every single lavish, unnecessary charge she had racked up in the past few months. All of this, the lawyer said calmly, will be factored into what you now owe Mr. Carter. Anna's breath hitched. Her lawyer turned to her, clearly not aware of these clauses beforehand. Anna, what is this? Anna shook her head, gripping the table, her manicured nails digging into the polished surface. No. This isn't right. She looked at Liam now, really looked at him, her face draining of color. You tricked me. Liam's voice was barely above a whisper, shaking as if he still couldn't believe this was happening. Anna, you signed it. She stared at him, her mouth opening and closing as if she couldn't form words. Liam's lawyer gave a small nod, almost sympathetic. And then there's this. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small recording device. Anna's entire body went rigid. Liam clicked play. Her own voice filled the room, clear as day. The idiot really thinks I love him. Anna sucked in a breath. The recording continued. Just a few more weeks, then I'll start picking fights. I just have to get him to crack first. Anna's hands trembled. God, I can't believe how easy this is. He actually trusts me. He thinks I signed that stupid prenup because I love him. Like I'd ever stay with him long term. Liam finally lifted his gaze and stared straight at her. Anna broke. Her hands flew to her mouth, her entire world collapsing in front of her. No, Liam, wait. She turned to her lawyer. You can fix this, right? Tell them I didn't. Her lawyer, who had remained stone-faced throughout the recording, now looked deeply unimpressed. Anna, she said, voice clipped. Is there anything else you need to tell me? Anna's breath hitched. The lawyer leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. Because right now, you don't just get nothing, you owe him. Anna's panic spilled over. Her hands clawed at the pages, flipping through them frantically, as if somewhere inside the document, there would be a loophole, a way out. There wasn't. Wait. We can negotiate, she begged, turning to Liam now. We don't have to go through with this. We can work something out. Liam's face was calm now. Anna, he said, voice almost gentle. I don't think that's an option. Her breath came in short, ragged gasp. This isn't fair. It was just a joke. Those texts, they weren't serious. Liam, you know I didn't mean. Liam's lawyer leaned forward, interrupting her pathetic attempt. Oh, but it wasn't just texts, he said smoothly. He pulled out a printed document. These are emails. From you. To your mother. Anna's face twisted. She shook her head violently. No, that's private, you can't. The lawyer ignored her, flipping the pages as he read. Mom, I've got him wrapped around my finger. He's going to give in soon. I'm already setting things up to make him look like the bad guy when I leave. That way, no one blames me. Anna gasped, eyes wide in terror. Liam watched as the truth crushed her. She had lost. The money. The plan. The freedom she thought she'd secured. She had gone from a woman who thought she had played the system to someone who had been played all along. No, this can't. Her voice cracked, her breath coming out in sharp, desperate sobs. She turned to Liam, her face crumbling. Please, Liam. You don't have to do this. We can talk about this. Liam tilted his head slightly. Anna, he said quietly, you never loved me. A deep, shuddering silence filled the room. Anna collapsed forward, breaking down completely. Liam let out a small breath, feeling the weight of months of betrayal finally lift. Then, without another word, he stood up, adjusted his suit, and walked out of the room. Anna had never imagined she would end up like this. Just weeks ago, she had strutted into that lawyer's office, ready to collect her prize and walk away from Liam wealthy and free. Now, she was broke, humiliated, and forced to crawl back to the one place she never wanted to be, her mother's house. She sat on the edge of the old, stained couch in Diane's cramped living room, staring at the peeling wallpaper, the sagging bookshelves, and the faint smell of mildew in the air. "This is your fault," Diane snapped, pacing back and forth, her arms crossed. "You had it all, Anna. A wealthy husband, a cushy life, and you ruined it." Anna clenched her fist. "I didn't ruin it. He tricked me," Diane scoffed. "You should have read the damn prenup. You got sloppy. You got lazy." Anna gritted her teeth, her humiliation burning deep inside her. She had no money. Liam's prenup had ensured she walked away with nothing, and the fraudulent intent clause meant she owed him money in legal fees. Her savings? Gone. Blown on shopping sprees and luxury vacations she had taken while laughing about how stupid Liam was. She had nowhere else to go. Diane stopped pacing and let out a bitter sigh. "You're lucky I'm letting you stay here." Anna wanted to scream. This wasn't a home, it was a prison. Her mother's house was tiny, suffocating, and worst of all, Diane was broke too. Gone were the luxury dinners, the spa days, the expensive cocktails with her friends. Now, her nights were spent eating microwave dinners, scrolling through social media, and seeing Liam move on without her. Because Liam had won. Meanwhile, across the country, Liam was rebuilding his life. He had left everything behind, the house he had shared with Anna, the city that held too many memories of betrayal, and moved somewhere new. At first, it was hard. The scars of humiliation and deception didn't fade overnight. There were days when he questioned everything, his judgment, his ability to trust again. The nights were the worst, when the echoes of Anna's cruel words haunted him. "The idiot really thinks I love him." But time passed, and with each day, the weight of her betrayal grew lighter. Then, 3 months later, he met Kate. Kate was different. She wasn't polished and perfect like Anna. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was genuine, real. She drove a beat-up Honda, worked as a teacher, and lived in a small, cozy apartment filled with second-hand furniture and old books. When they went out for coffee, she insisted on paying for her own drink. When they had dinner, she split the bill without hesitation. When Liam casually mentioned his work in tech, she didn't ask about his salary or hint at his wealth. She just smiled and said, "That sounds cool. Do you love what you do?" She didn't care about his money. She cared about him. For the first time in a long time, Liam felt something he hadn't felt in years: peace. With Kate, there were no games, no manipulation, no hidden agendas. Just genuine laughter, late-night conversations, and a connection that had nothing to do with wealth. One evening, as they sat on her couch, eating takeout and watching a movie, Kate turned to him and asked, "You okay? You seemed lost in thought." Liam hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. Just thinking about how lucky I am." Kate raised an eyebrow, smirking. "Oh? Lucky how?" He smiled. "Lucky that I met you." Kate rolled her eyes playfully. "Cheesy." Liam just laughed. For the first time in years, he wasn't looking over his shoulder. He wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. He was finally, truly happy.